YouTube, San Frank here. We're in the Charizard studio today. Our regular studio. Um, can't really do much with that right now. Probably for the next month or so, we're gonna have to use the Charizard studio. So I'm gonna see how this sounds. See if I can improve the audible audio, or whatever, for this. But today I wanted to talk about. This is an episode of Hobby Talk, and I want to talk about Pokemon and the subject of graded Pokemon cards. So, if you guys have been watching the channel, you know that I recently sent in it wasn't a huge submission, but a Pokemon submission. Got those back. I kind of got like decimated on grades. Um, Most of it was my fault, but I think PSA is definitely getting tougher with grading, and it's a lot harder to get PSA 10s. They have even come out and said that they are more strict on centering. Now that maybe they're more strict on other things too, but I think over time, you know, especially since probably the last 5 years, 6 years, they have steadily gotten tougher and tougher with grading, and to the point now where if Pokemon has a drop off in their card quality, like it seems like English has definitely dropped off in card quality, really going to see it get to be tough to get PSA 10s. But that being said, I still got some decent cards in that order. I didn't get the grades I was really hoping for, but still, it didn't matter. Um, I put a bunch of those cards in my eBay store and just got wiped out. I mean, they're just the demand for graded Pokemon cards is so high right now, guys. It's crazy. I cannot get orders back from PSA quick enough. And I went through a bunch of the particularly really hot stuff that right now, and found a bunch of stuff. I was like, man, I need to really grade some of this stuff. And what's crazy is the hottest eras right now, I would say, are like the Sun and Moon Tag Team era, and also the EX era, especially like ultra rares. Um, the tag teams and ultra rares from the XY era, like the Mega Pokemon, that stuff is on fire right now, and even just the non-Mega, like just the full art stuff. And what's really interesting about the XY era is that was a really tough era for grading. PSA 10s, really throughout all of Black and White and X and Y, the XY era, PSA 10s, even back when it was easier to grade, just were super tough to get. There's a lot of reasons why. A lot of little white, little, how when they cut the cards, there's like sometimes there'd be a little white dot in the corner, like where's a little bit of a tiny bit of paper loss on that little, on those dark blue back. I'm talking the back of the cards. You know what I'm talking about. If you've looked at Pokemon cards, the card can look perfectly mint, but it might have a tiny little white dot in the corner. I do know PSA used to give you one or two of those if they're really small, but they're not doing that now. If you send a card in any type of little white dot on a corner, you're going to get busted with the PSA 9. They're not going to give you a 10. So they're definitely tougher with that. But even when they're easier, it was super, super tough to get PSA 10s on that stuff. And there's just not a lot of it out there that survived being minty. I mean, the boxes are so expensive, it doesn't make a lot of sense to buy a box to open it to grade cards. The return, like the expected value, is nowhere near what you're going to get, and the card out of the pack is probably not going to get a PSA 10. Yeah, it's really interesting to see what's going on with those eras, especially the XY ultra rares. And another thing that plagued XY was centering. There's a lot of bad centering on those cards. Straight out of the pack, you're probably looking at a PSA 8. And I've gotten lots of cards that way, even in the old grading, with right out of the pack, get PSA 8 because centering and these little white dots on the back of the cards. But anyway, that being said, that stuff, even in PSA 8, PSA 9 um, condition, is really hot right now. And I think the market, especially in Pokemon, they're starting to turn to where it's acceptable. Like, used to be, it was like, you know, only want PSA 10s. Well, guess what? These are not PSA 10s of any sort of number in those areas. So PSA 9s and PSA 8s have really appreciated because they're still near mint cards, mint to near mint. Like PSA 9's a mint, PSA 8 is near mint to mint, and then PSA 7 even is considered near mint. So as long as you have like a PSA 8, PSA 9, you'd really be shocked at what those cards sell for right now. People wanting to get those in their collections and noticing that they're just, compared to the population of the Sword and Shield era and Scarlet and Violet era, they basically made nothing back then. There's so few boxes, so few graded cards from XY and Black and White, comparatively, and especially high grade stuff. So that's the kind of stuff that's red hot. And then you move to the Sun and Moon era. The card quality was very good. Not as hard to get PSA 10s in the Sun and Moon era. Props to Pokemon for upping their game for that era. The centering was kind of better, even though there is still a lot of off-center cards. But you do have better shots at PSA 10s in the Sun and Moon era, I feel like. Just the quality was better. And you even look at the pop reports of those, they're just just minuscule compared to the pop reports of, Scarlet and Violet era and Sword and Shield era. Like when you're talking about PSA 10s, PSA 9s, all that sort of stuff. But the tag team era stuff, guys, is on fire. I kid you not. Card prices have practically doubled in the last few months for the tag team stuff. And when I'm talking tag team stuff, that's stuff from like 2019, where you have the two Pokemon on the card, sometimes three. There's some of them that have three, like the Legendary Birds trio. And then you had, on top of that, alternate arts that were incredibly tough to pull. Even the Rainbow Rares, Hyper Rares are starting to get some love. Anything tag team. Like even the GX, just the regular GX tag team cards have really gone up. And it's really surprising. Those were not considered that hard to pull, at least from what I remember pulling. It was the alternate arts, of course, that were super tough to pull, and the hyper rares. But you could pull a full art or especially the just regular GX tag team cards. But yeah, the prices on those are crazy, and those are not super tough to grade, but there's just not a ton of it out there. And I have a lot of that stuff that I need to get to PSA and get back while this market is still hot. But I actually, with the PSA pop reports, they're so low compared to the newer stuff that this market is going to stay hot a lot longer than like the newer stuff. The newer stuff, it's incredible how high the pop reports are getting. Like even Moonbreon, you know how tough it is to pull Moonbreon. I mean, thousands and thousands of packs you got to open to get one Moonbreon. Not sure what the exact pull rate is for that exact card, but it's over 1,000, I'm sure. PSA 10 Moonbreons are over 16,000 in the pop report. It's incredible, but that card is very solid. Everybody wants it. It really, that's one card where the pop report doesn't really matter much because it's so in demand. But you look at the other ones, there's a lot of other cards too that are really pushing up their high on pop reports, and it's going to start causing those card prices to come back down reasonably. Um, you know, I think if there's a big crash, I think it'd be good to go in and pick up some of them, because, I mean, you look at the youth today. Um, I'd say like 7 years old to 25. They all love Pokemon. They love it. It's universally loved. I mean, I'm sure some people that don't like it, and a lot of the young people loved collecting it. It's going when those that group of generation has disposable income. They're going to want PSA 10s of their favorite cards when they're growing up, which is you know Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield, Scarlet and Violet. More so Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet, I would say. And even with the high pop numbers, there's so many people going to be wanting those cards. There's going to be a lot of that generation that will have disposable income wanting PSA 10s of those great cards, because there's truly great cards that came out in these eras. So yeah, the demand for Pokemon stuff, insane. The grading at PSA is much tougher. I don't think anybody can deny that. And also, there's another side point: is this is going to start affecting um, the high cert number value. I think, because clearly, since they've moved to I think it's over 10 million cards now that they've graded the 10 million cert number, the ones that start with the one. Um, Actually, give me 1 second. I'll show you what I'm talking about. It's like this weeping bell. As you can see, the cert number there starts with a 1, and it's a 9-digit number, which means they've now graded over 10 million cards. So a card like that, oh, that looks really neat there with the reflection of that Master Ball. But card numbers with that serial number, or the certification numbers that start with the 1 as a PSA 10, I think are going to hold more value than the old cert numbers that are PSA 10, just because it's a proven fact. They have gotten tougher on grading. They've even said so, that they've tightened their PSA 10 requirements on centering, and I think they've done it also in other areas. It is tougher to get 10s. You look at the Scarlet and Violet era, it is tough to get PSA 10s. The gem rate is much lower nowadays than it used to be. So I think certain numbers that start with that 1 are probably going to demand a little premium over the older cert numbers. And I hate that, but I mean, if you were a buyer, would you rather have a PSA 10 where they're grading tougher, or a PSA 10 where they're grading more lenient? Of course you're going to want the one where they're grading tougher, because you're even more sure that that's a PSA 10. Also, buy the card, not the grade. You hear that saying all the time. It's true. If you see a card and it looks, your PSA 10 older cert looks nicer than, don't just buy it because of the cert number. Buy the card. Trust me, there was beautiful PSA 10s that were really solid 10s back then too. But maybe there's a few more weaker PSA 10s in the older cert numbers. So, and probably not as many weak 10s in the new cert numbers that start with the 1. So, just some thoughts here, especially after doing this submission, and I felt like I got crushed. I did get kind of crushed on grades, mostly my fault, just not looking at the cards close enough. My eyes are getting worse over time. I need better inspection equipment to look over my cards. I've gotten all those comments in the videos. Yes, I agree with all of that. I got to be more selective. But even so, even with my bad eyesight and getting crushed on my grades in that order, I still made a really good profit on that order, and kept several for my collection. So as long as I can keep grading cards and sell some of the ones I don't want to keep to pay for the order and my investment in the cards, and basically get to keep graded cards in my collection for free, I'm gonna keep doing it. I mean, it's awesome. Um, so, it can still be done. There's so much demand for graded cards in Pokemon right now. Um, you know, there's that saying, never punished. Well, I think you can get punished in sports cards a little bit more because the price of grading is so high. But it is pretty tough to get punished in Pokemon. Just look over your cards. Um, really look them over good. Um, you know, grade the right stuff. Kind of look and see what PSA 9s go for versus PSA 10s and all that sort of thing. And you should be okay grading with PSA. PSA is not guaranteed to always be the king of the hill on grading. There could be a time when, let's say 5 years from now, CGC all of a sudden has all the respect in the grading world, and now CGC 10s are like what everybody wants. It could happen. You never know. BGS could recover themselves and become like they used to be king, but they're no longer king. They're struggling. But who knows? 5 years from now, Beckett may have regained all their. Who knows? There could be a scandal at PSA. PSA mislabeling stuff and misgrading stuff. I mean, they clearly had a problem for a while of very inconsistent grading. I think they've kind of corrected that a lot because I've been getting very consistent grading lately. I don't know if it's just because I'm getting the same grader all the time, which is possible, or they are just a little more meticulous with their grading. But PSA could have kept doing inconsistent grading to the point where people were like fed up with PSA and moving, and a lot of people did get fed up with PSA. But PSA survived that and is still king. And with this tighter grading standard, I'm pretty sure the PSA 10s with these new certs are going to command even more attention towards PSA. Anyway, a lot of rambling. Stay good out there. Have fun with the hobby. Don't stress over it. That's the number one thing, is have fun with the hobby. It's supposed to be bringing you joy, not bringing you stress. So, and yes, even if you have bad eyesight and get a few PSA 7s and 8s on stuff that you didn't really want, you can still do all right. As I just proved at this last order. Did great as far as profit is concerned. All right, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos later.